Hello and welcome to our first list focus video analyzing Haqqislam as of April 2026. Haqqislam is the new hotness since the list N5 army update dropped. They received a lot of exciting profile updates, basically altering the way the army is played for good. As Haqqislam is a fairly popular army in the N5 meta, at least in our area, we thought it would make for a good video topic to do a primer on. That said, there are already several good videos on YouTube that cover the basic faction strengths, weaknesses, and tactics, some of which also go into deep dives regarding the profiles available on Army. Treading the same path would probably not add much to the conversation, so we decided to instead focus on list building. We will focus on two themes that I think are both good and relevant Haqqislam lists. Namely, these are, first, the Army of Cheese, which leverages Saladin's inspiring leadership to field an overbearing number of irregulars for defensive and asymmetric tactics. And secondly, Knights of the Sky, which goes all in on Haqqislam's ability to field two top-notch flyers while retaining flex in the rest of the list. It's worth noting that the list's tactics and opinions in this video are my hot takes, and definitely not gospel. To the contrary, there are lists and tactics I feel comfortable playing, yet admittedly I'm not even a very good player in the big picture. As such, they may not be objectively good or may, in your opinion, even be utter garbage. I would be more than happy to hear your arguments about why these lists suck, why I'm wrong, and what I should be playing instead. Because, as we all know, the internet is where we all get to tell each other that they are wrong and we are right, and it makes for amusing discourse if nothing else. Joking aside, while this is intended to be a primer for newcomers to the faction, it is in no shape or form a definitive or authoritative take. With that out of the way, here is the first list. This list is basically built around Saladin and the things that he can uniquely do. As such, talking a bit about his profile and what he brings to the table will be essential. Saladin has two profiles, one of which is a lieutenant and the other which is chain of command. You can safely and completely ignore the chain of command profile. I can think of absolutely no reason why you would ever want to take it, and it is safe to assume you will never use it. For all intents and purposes, it simply does not exist. The reason for that is the most important skills that Saladin brings to the table only apply when he's your lieutenant, namely inspiring leadership and strategos level 2. Let's go over his skills briefly in the context of why he matters to the list. In no particular order, here are the things that make Saladin special. First, counterintelligence. While this skill does other things in addition, the really important thing it adds to the list is that the opponent can strip at most a single order if you're going first with Saladin, which is a frequent thing considering he's one of the highest whip units in the game at whip 16. That means your alpha tactics are less constrained by order count, if at all, as most opponents will not sacrifice a command token to cancel one order from your pool anyway. He has no wound incapacitation and immunity shock, which means Saladin is basically a pseudo 2 wound trooper, meaning he can tank the occasional warband template or take some enemy fire, survive, and just guts into better protection. He has inspiring leadership, and this is one of Saladin's two bread and butter skills. Inspiring leadership basically turns all your irregular troops into regular and gives the ones that are not religious troops the courage skill as well. While this is very strong for any army, it's particularly strong for Haqqislam, where some of your biggest strengths used to lie in being able to leverage very potent warbands and skirmishers who came in at a very discounted price at the cost of being irregular. Now you can get these troops at a discount for no disadvantage at all, which is huge. Inspiring leadership means as long as Saladin is your lieutenant, you do not go into retreat, which is sometimes a boon and sometimes a bane. Inspiring leadership also allows you to use your lieutenant order to execute a coordinated order without using a command token. This is particularly great for using your warbands to coordinate things like smoke grenade throws or strike hard targets with multiple Panzerfausts. He also has Strategos level 2, and this skill adds a few very cool benefits. You can reserve 2 units instead of 1 at deployment, which is sometimes very important when deploying Saladin himself, for example. You can and usually will replace your lieutenant order with a regular order for your combat group, though remember you may sometimes want to retain that lieutenant order for a coordinated order. And you can move one troop between groups free of charge every turn, which makes list manipulation a lot easier when playing Haqqislam. Finally, Saladin also has a Lieutenant plus Command Token skill, and Command Tokens are generally useful for all armies and improves your order economy even further by allowing you to take further coordinated orders among doing other things. While not huge, it's just another benefit that I think is worth underlining. While an entire video on Saladin Tactica could be appropriate, that's not what we'll be doing here, so let's move on. The starting lieutenant role target of Whip 16 makes Saladin a very obvious lieutenant. Considering all the benefits he provides, your opponent is greatly incentivized to scalpel him out early. This is a particularly devastating consequence for a Saladin army, as not only do you suffer loss of lieutenant for next turn, but all your irregulars revert to being irregular selves in consequent turns. As such, you want to protect him. The easiest way to do this is to field a decoy. Fielding a second Saladin is actually pretty easy because Haqqislam has access to 2 particularly good and rather cheap holomask units for this very purpose, the Bashi Bazouk and the Hafza. We've gone with the Hafza here, but we will focus on the Bashi Bazouk in the other list. The Hafza is a unit more closely associated with Kapukalki, one of Haqqislam's 3 sectorials. The profile I picked here is the heavy rocket launcher because I had exactly 1.5 Swig extra lying around. This gives me a unit I can use as ambush or ARO in a pinch, while being a particularly nasty retaliation if my opponent decides to go after his Saladin disguise. The Ghazi, Muttawi'ah and Daylami are the defensive and offensive expandables that constitute the rest of this list's defenses while also providing its shock troops. These are completely different profiles that serve fairly similar purposes in this army. The Ghazi provide deployment zone defense by having templates as well as indirect comms attacks that can immediately and very effectively end an alpha strike push. The Daylami provide roadblocks to the enemy they have to wasteward order zone, either by trying to discover and shoot them from advantageous positions or just taking their chances against a Panzerfaust out in the open. Regardless, these 6 to 8 point troopers also serve both as your order cheerleaders while providing you with decent attack options, sometimes even as coordinated orders. But of course, your army list will also require units that can force the matter when necessary. For this purpose, we have 2 duo fire teams and a tag that will confront the enemy directly. The Mukhtar duo is one of our 2 gunfighting teams. The Mukhtar is a personal favorite of mine, even though I wanted the profile quite later in my tenure with Haqqislam. I became a believer by trying to use them and eventually discovering how devastating they can be to light and medium infantry firsthand. The profiles used in this list are the MSV2 Red Fury and the Hacker, although there can be variations of this list with the Doctor or even the Forward Observer as the missions require. This small fire team has quite a few things going for it. The MSV2 Red Fury is a premium gunfighter. It has its own mimetism -3 on top of having its own MSV2, making it great at eliminating most enemy gunfighters in the active turn. The Hacker is also surprisingly good, having Whip 14 and BTS 6, and can push buttons on the move. They are very quick on their feet, at move 6 too, and they are fairly forgiving when the dice go really bad thanks to having no wound incapacitation. The fire team has forward deployed +4 inch as well, which is very handy when you have the first turn. At the same time, there are a few things to consider when using this duo. The Red Fury is a gun. It's an okay gun, but it's definitely not a fantastic gun. I would even go and say it's maybe not a gun worth 1 Swig in most instances, but this list is not hurting for Swig. SR7 is kind of anemic, and you will find it very difficult to put wounds on heavy infantry in cover or things like tags with this gun. Also, forward deploy 4-inch can be a trap if you are going second. While they are pseudo 2-wound infantry, the Mukhtar are not particularly durable troops and should not be expected to hold their own in aero. If you deploy them up front unprotected, expect them to get shot and die. Our second gunfighter duo are a pair of femme fatale. The Odalisques are one of the units that got a significant glow up in the last update. They are 6'2" move units with no wound incapacitation and shock immunity, making them significantly more mobile and reliable now. Having combat instinct and sixth sense means they are immune to some of the nastier modifiers in gunfighting. They also have Discover +6 on top of Whip 14, making them pretty good at dealing with camo threats. Most of them also come with a +1 burst pulsar, which is great for forking. Three profiles in particular are worth mentioning here. I think two of them are in this list, but the second one is easily interchangeable depending on the mission type and preference. The viral marksmanship profile, the marksmanship is basically a +3 ballistic skill modifier in most situations. A viral marksman rifle is another decent gun at fighting light and medium infantry. Overall, this is your backup plan if the Mukhtar fails. The Disco Bowler is the second profile I'm using in this duo, particularly because it allows me to use vision control of my own to bypass certain arrows that I would rather not have to engage. The SMG is nice, it can go on suppression, and the Contender is an okay gun to fall back on for longer ranges and arrow due to being 2T2. And then there is the Paramedic profile. The Medikit PH15 on Odalisques is cute, but in reality you will never medikit a no-wound incapacitation model. The 25% chance of killing them outright when they still have one more wound is just never worth it. The reason to take this profile is to have a specialist to accompany your gunfighter. It costs the same points, is a valid choice, and I would say is a better choice for specialist-heavy missions, particularly the new ITS mission Outbreak. We will top off the list by adding three more elements to round it out: big guns, network projection, and opportunistic firepower. For big guns, we will be taking the Shakush. The contest here is mainly between the Azra'il and the Shakush, but I will use my flex points to go for the Shakush. While as Azrael's SR4 APHMG with continuous damage is great for the 37 points that it costs, the Shakush at 58 points is a very worthwhile upgrade, I feel. Yes, its SR4 HMG is not AP, but it will get the job done 90% of the time. On top of that, you get Move 6-2, BS14, Structure 3, and Tactical Awareness, as well as a Specialist Operative Helper bot. All in all, a solid big gun that won't break the bank, and I think a profile that is really, really underappreciated for what it brings to the table. For network projection and opportunistic firepower, we will be taking the Hassassin Barid and the Shaytaniyah remote. The Barid is one of the most efficient, if not the best, hackers in the game. A BS12 pitcher, while unlinked, more or less guarantees a 16-inch repeater placement. It's about 84% chance within 2 orders, and we already have a hacker in this list, a very decent hacker too. The killer hacker profile is particularly worthwhile for us because the Trinity -3 is a great upgrade for targeting enemy hackers. Now we have a forward deploying capable hacker, we have a pitcher, and we have 1.5 swig left over. So we will finish off the list with a Shaytaniyah remote for opportunistic guided missile play. If you get the chance to land a spotlight in reactive or active turn, just exploit the opportunity. At the end of the day, even if that does not happen, it is still a missile launcher. And I've had really fun and freak success with it, taking long-range direct shots at unexpected things, or just standing at a corner to act as a fire lane arrow and intimidating people. With that, we move on to our second list, Knights of the Sky. M5 gave Haqqislam not one but two vehicle type units, and Corvus Belli, in their infinite wisdom, decided the vanilla Haqqislam army can field one of each. To be honest, this was not a big deal until the Saladin update, when it became fairly easy to accommodate both flies in the list and retain a lot of flex on top of it. The fact that the flyers got some minor alterations, which basically made them uniquely well suited to supporting each other, was the cherry on top. As you can see, this is another Saladin list, and everything we discussed about the previous Saladin list also apply here. As such, I will be focusing mostly on the new goodies, so let's start with the vehicles. Let's start with what they have in common. They are very fast. Move A2 is fast, but Super Jump Jet Propulsion 3-inch means their first moves are basically 11-inch in any direction at no disadvantages. They are inherently no cover units anyway. Effectively, they are move 11 too. This mobility is exactly what makes them incredibly potent, as they can effectively cross the table and wreak havoc inside the enemy deployment zone within something like 3 orders. The main downside to these units is their silhouette size of 7. They are big sitting ducks in reactive. If you're going first, you have to make very good use of them, and if you're going second, you must defend them effectively, as they are a bit of an investment in Swig. So let's focus on the Haytham first. This vehicle is your gunfighter. He has decent visibility modes. Mimetism -6 with no cover is basically Mimetism -3 of his own. He comes equipped with an MSV-1 and also packs a respectable continuous damage rate Fury to go with it. Everything we said about the Mukhtar also applies to the Haytham. The heavy shotgun plus 1 burst Panzerfaust profile also has its merits, but I do not think it will see use in many lists. This is the flyer you will use to engage softer targets and targets with mimetism. This is your bully. The Zeybek, however, is built different. Its visibility control methods are completely different. It packs albedo -6 and a smoke grenade launcher instead of an MSV. What that means is it can engage and eliminate MSV AROs very effectively, then lay down smoke for your own MSV unit to snipe the enemy, or for your Haytham to just move up and engage the enemy backline in a 1-2 punch combo. It also has a bigger gun in the AP Spitfire that can respectably threaten heavy infantry and tanks. I think it's obvious right away that these two vehicles are very complementary. One of them fights MSV units with albedo, the other fights non-MSV units with mimetism, and in doing so, they can basically dismantle a whole army pretty brutally in an alpha assault. That is why they are here. We are trying to destroy your opponents, not make friends, and to be honest, this list will not make you many friends, so beware. We will do our defending with Ghazi, Muttawi'ah, and Daylami as before, but we will add something interesting to the mix, the Hassassin Fiday. The Hassassin Fiday is one of the few impersonator profiles in Infinity, and while, in my opinion, N5 made them a lot less potent in many ways, the one thing that really changed in their favor is the martial arts rules. At martial arts level 3, the Fiday gets a +1 special dice to his CC attack, which is huge unless you are fighting an army like JSA where even the line troops randomly have martial arts 3 or some such. While back in N4, the Fiday was a more blunt but reliable template fork delivery service. In N5, he's more of a problem your opponent has to solve or else. As such, the Fiday will usually get deployed outside your opponent's deployment zone, hidden in a nook or building on their approach path, daring them to waste orders discovering and engaging him, or just risking exposing themselves to a counter-assault. The Fiday is less of an active turn alpha strike piece, but of course, if there's an obvious lieutenant or a very hard arrow that you really need to deal with, use that Whip 14 impersonation role to just show up at their door as the pizza delivery guy. On the other hand, he has gained importance as a different kind of arrow piece, one that stalls and frustrates your opponent and punishes them when they are ignored. Our Saladin decoy this time around is a Bashi Bazouk, who can be fielded in one of two ways, either deploy him as a single holo mask at the opposite edge of the table, or deploy him as 3 holo echoes, where all 3 and Saladin are in 8-inch coherency, so it becomes an obfuscating Saladin soup. Just make sure they are on different elevations and don't ask to be GML'd or speculative grenaded in just one salvo. I've gone with the 13-point specialist operator profile here instead of one of the 14-point profiles with meteor guns. I don't want to fight with this Bashi Bazouk, but if he needs, he can run up and push a less turn button. We will go for the old trusty AP heavy machine gun Azra'il as our big gun in this list. He is a BS-13 SR4 AP heavy machine gun with no visibility modifiers. As such, he's not a finesse piece. This is your get out of jail free card when you really need to throw a lot of dice at a problem and brute force it away. He's tough and he hits hard. And now for our real flex piece, I want to introduce a unit that I have recently fallen in love with, the Hassassin Bokhtar. In particular, the parachutist Red Fury profile. What this guy brings to the table is a parachutist that can flank from the table edge, which is particularly deadly in corner deployment scenarios. Move 6-2 with jet propulsion, meaning great mobility to get those shots in the enemy's back. BS-13, immunity -3 and MS-1, making him a fairly formidable gunfighter. Tactical awareness, which he can use on the turn he deploys as a parachutist as well. Vita 2, Arm 4 makes him fairly durable and forgiving to use. But beware, he is a hackable heavy infantry with only BTS 3. Yes, he is expensive, but he is very much worth it. Haqqislam has a very extensive roster, and covering everything in a single video would be very difficult, so I have tried as best as I can to condense my list building process into what I thought would be a useful and thought-provoking piece for others to enjoy. As I stated in the intro, none of this is gospel, and some of it may very well be outright wrong. So please like this video if you enjoyed it, and jump into the comments to tell me your thoughts. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What is your meta like, and what kind of Haqqislam armies do you see or play? How would you change these lists to better suit you, and how would you play against them? Until next time, have a good day, and may all your rolls be crits. Unless you are playing against me, of course.